But I just thought tonight, fitting as the theme is Mums Worth Celebrating, I thought what better way to than just celebrate and have a chat with my mum and talk about motherhood and talk about all the things that come with it. And my mum, just so everyone knows, has quite a bit of experience. I'm the eldest of 6, and so I turned out all right, I guess. I think we're going to find out. And I just thought you could talk with us tonight and mum and son have a chat. But the first thing I wanted to ask you is, I know that motherhood is a journey, and there's a lot to it. There's a lot that happens, and we've got a lot of mums in the room tonight. There's kids everywhere. Our church embraces that. What's some of the greatest joys you experienced as a mum? And I want to highlight this not because every mum needs to go, well, I have to have the same joys as that. But sometimes in the chaos, I was talking to Kirsten about this, in the chaos, we miss the joys. When it's so full on and there's so much going on, there's moments of joy we miss. So maybe we can highlight tonight, what are some of the joys you found in being a mum and you probably still find today as we're all growing up? Yeah. Share with us about that.
You actually brought up a point I was going to say, which was in the chaos of everything, sometimes we can overlook the little wins. And a lot of when I look back, can I have a drink? Did you grab one? Oh, thank you. Sorry. Can you undo that for me? When we were growing up, I look back at that part of my life, and especially when I had the 6 kids. Thank you, Doll. Bits of it can be a blur, and it can be really hard to think, oh my gosh, was there times I actually enjoyed the motherhood experience, or was I just in complete survival mode, trying to cope with really strong-willed children? I had 2 girls and 4 boys, and 3 of those boys were extremely hard to parent. And I don't just say that lightheartedly, they were very difficult children to parent. And it wasn't because, they just were just so naughty and strong-willed and defiant and did their own journey.
You got counselling because
we
of it.
did.
Yes.
Yeah, with you I did. I got coaching.
I thought that was with Zach. I didn't know it was with me. The exposing's already happening.
It was you.
Okay.
Which is so funny because I think back to 13-year-old Sam and all of the trauma he was causing me at the time, and I just think, look what God does.
Thank you, Sheree. Put it again for my mum tonight. Great.
But look what God does. When you're faithful and you stay true to the journey, look what God does. And I guess the greatest joy for me actually, in a spiritual sense, has been watching every one of my children at some capacity, at some point of their life, put their hand up to say, I want to serve God.
Yeah.
And that's not through Mark and my, I shouldn't say encouragement, because we do want them to walk with God. But each and every one of them have made that decision based on their relationship with God, not because it's something we have pushed them to do. And I, even like with Zeke, so nearly 2 years ago when Mark and I stepped down as the pastors here and handed the baton over to these amazing guys, I said to Mark, I really had a challenge with how will my youngest son, Zeke, who I think is downstairs with Blaze, he's going to have a different teenagehood without his parents being the pastors. And now I find out he's up on stage with Locke every Friday night and he's like doing leadership stuff and all this. It doesn't tell us anything. I find out all this through everybody else. But God is faithful. So watching my children develop their relationship with God and knowing that the hard struggles that I had as a parent with the spiritual side of stuff of saying, no, we all go to church as a family, and being consistent, because consistency as a parent is the biggest challenge ever. Yeah. Yep. But being consistent with that and saying, no, as a family, we all go to church together every Sunday. The rest of the week's yours. As a family, we go to church Sunday. And to see the fruits of that now as they're adults and as teenagers is probably one of the greatest joys. And seeing them all, one, that I survived raising them, and two, they've actually turned into decent humans, because they kept me guessing there for a while what kind of humans they were going to grow up into being. But so
I'm actually sure a lot of mums can relate to that. I'm not sure what's going to happen to my child with the way they behave.
No.
I do want to draw two things out, but one of the things was I actually hated, and I will say that, you know this, those principles you had, like, I don't want to get out of bed, I don't want to go to church. This is when we had morning church. I didn't like it. And another thing you did, you wouldn't let me have sleepovers and I could go run around the streets with my friends. Two things when I was younger, I was like, Mum is the most strictest mum, I don't like this. All the other mums let them do what they want. And as I got older, I started to realise that she was the most caring mum in the school, because she put in these rules. And I want to just encourage any mums out there that have children that are difficult or rough, and you feel like, I don't know if they're going to make it. If you just show them grace and love and you stick to consistency, we might hate it and we might rebel, we might push against it. But as we get older, we start to realise, okay, a real mum that really loves us wouldn't let us play on the road, wants to protect us. And so I want to encourage all the mums out there, don't hesitate to put in some boundaries. The kids might rebel, like I said, and we might push back, but you're doing a good job as a mum. And the second thing too is I just so see the grace God had on you as a mum, from my point of view, and that grace spills down to us. And I know that maybe there was moments where you were hard on yourself because of maybe we were the naughtiest kids in the place. Maybe we were most disturbing. I don't know what we did. I know that if anyone went to Busways and asked about the Minturn kids, they'd be like, is she even a pastor? Does she go to church? Don't ever let your kids' wildness, their ability to be big and dream and to see things as a curse, or like the society has to block them in. And sometimes they're going to run the muck, sometimes they're going to be naughty, sometimes we're going to push the buttons. But all the mums out there, I want to say you're raising the next gen, and you've got to have grace for yourself and grace for your kids. I don't think there is such thing as a bad mum. I think there's just mums that are doing their best, trying their best. There isn't a bad mum. Well, their kids sit quietly. These ones are climbing on the busways windows, hanging out on the highway. That was Zach, not me. I was just chucking that in there. But at the end of the day, grace is what gets my mum through it, what I've seen, and grace is what got me through it. And I just want to encourage all the mums out there, all the mums that, you know, we have kids, they're wild. Have grace for yourself. Have patience. Trust that God's on it. God's into it. And keep that consistency. Maybe, you know, come to church, or hey, you can't go out past 9. Even though Zeke's allowed to go out past 1 in the morning, and mine's 9, and Zach was 10, and then Kai went to... Well, I don't get that. Does anyone else know?
I feel like you're so hard done by.
I don't get it. I was speaking to a parent last night. I said to my brother Zeke, Zeke, my mum, like our mum used to smack me with a spoon. And he goes, smacked? It wasn't even about the spoon. He said smacked.
I'm politically correct now.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't back then.
So I just want... You got to have fun, right? And we've always said the church has got to be the safest place for mums and dads.
Absolutely.
The safest place. Yeah, that's right. The younger they get, the more they can do. It's weird. I wish I was born last. Okay.
But I tell you what, it's also really difficult. It's like the mum guilt thing. And the mum guilt that I'm never, ever good enough. And I can tell you, without every woman, every mother sitting in this room, there is a point where you actually don't like your children. You may not...
Today.
At the moment, you're on thin, But there's like... You love them unconditionally, and you would do anything for them. Like you would throw yourself in front of a car to save their life. But there are days where you cannot stand their little faces, and that's okay. I remember I used to struggle with that.
Yeah.
You know that I should just be loving this terror, but be kind to yourself, because there are times where you're just going to go, I actually can't stand the sight of you. You are pressing every one of my buttons today. So be kind to yourself, because you know deep down you love them with every part of your being.
That's good.
But it is tough being a parent and it's tough being a mum.
And
so be kind to yourself as mums.
So good. Even to clarify that as well, it's like it's not, speaking of trouble, it's not just a Christian thing, right?
No.
And I know that maybe some people are watching online or some people are down in the lounge room. It's not like, well, you're just a Christian family and all of a sudden your kids are perfect.
Yeah, no.
I think sometimes it's the opposite. I don't know how it works, God. I'm not going to ask questions. But it's just...
I used to get so embarrassed because I was like the pastor.
Yeah.
And we had at one point in the town, we were volunteering at Ironman and we were doing all this stuff. So a lot of people knew who Mark and I were in the city. And so it was embarrassing when I had the school ringing me constantly and busways, and I'm just like, oh man. I'm like, what? They must think I'm a joke sometimes because here I am, preaching this way and my kids are like ferals. Yeah. But again, it was that whole, we had to navigate with the kids, that what we did not define who they were, and they had to find their own journey. We just had to be the example all the time. So yeah. And I think it goes back to, I know one of the things that you wanted me to touch on tonight was what was really difficult.
Yeah, the tough moments.
The tough parts.
I guess, and I know we've already touched a little bit on it, the tough parts of like, I know we've got, there's single mums, and it's not just always the dad around, and there's mums that don't have relations with their kids.
That's right.
Now I know that, fortunately, we are blessed that we still have a good relationship and dad's still around. That sounded way better in my head than when that came out. But did I say this panel was going to be raw and exposing us all? But we do want to get raw. I know that there is very tough seasons.
There is.
And they're beyond behaviour. It's beyond naughty.
Yeah.
There's times where I know that even me coming down and seeing Kirsty, sometimes it's just like a full breakdown. It's just full like, who tricked us into having kids?
Yeah.
Like I know how we got there.
I find that so funny. I find that so funny that you now have to deal with all of that.
Yeah.
Like that is just, revenge is just the sweetest thing. It really is.
Put your hands together for my mum. She's been... No, but it's true. And there's a lot of mums that might watch this or in the house tonight. There's tough moments. There's moments of weakness.
Yeah.
And you know what? Kids see it all. Yeah, that's the most challenging part. You see your heroes, your mum and dad, and as you get older, you start to realise, man, mum was tough. She's had moments of weakness. She's had struggles. Yeah. I'm sure that's across the board. It's not like just, we're all good at what we did. There's moments. Yeah. What were some of those moments in your life, just as a testimony, where it was tough? Yeah. It was real, and you had to navigate that. And how did God help you through those?
Like I kind of touched on it before about the consistency, because as a parent, that is the most challenging thing. Yeah. Because if you've got really strong, defiant kids who, I've shared this in the past about my testimony. I remember sitting, I think I had 3 or 4 kids, and I was sitting on the lounge in my lounge room, hysterically crying because these children, I did not know what to do with them. How did I parent them? Like Zach used to be the most difficult child to discipline because he would go, you'd go to your room and he'd go, righto. And then you go, you can come out now. No, I'm good. I'll stay. There was nothing you could do that would have any impact on his life. And I remember sitting there going, how am I going to keep this together, keep my sanity and parent these children? And God and I said, these wildly independent, rebellious kids. And God just showed me really clearly, he said, they're going to be leaders one day. So what you need to do is not break their spirit, but mold them and put the great principles into their life and let me do the rest. And it was interesting because it's watching that progress. There was times I'm like, we're not going to make this. We are not going to do it. But it's that digging deep and that consistency. And that's what I guess, first of all, we learned we had to parent each one of our children very differently. So the one, size fits all did not work in our household. So we had to find out what worked with Zach, what worked with Jonas, our destructor, what worked with, Sam, the busway speed dial guy. We had to find out all that stuff and just take one child at a time. And you're already stretched thin with responsibilities and parenting. That's hard to do, but the results speak for themselves. And being consistent, like I said, there was stuff where I didn't give my children curfews as they got older, but there are other different things that Mark and I agreed at that were strict guidelines in our home. And we never deviated from that. You can call me the worst mother. The boys used to yell at me and say I was so unfair, but we never deviated from them. That was just the conviction in our household, and I, for single mums in this place, I salute you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know how difficult it is when you've got a partner with you to face this in your worst times. When you're falling apart, to then have to be the only parent for your children is just commendable, unbelievable. Yeah. And and it was a lot of stuff. Mark and I actually kind of didn't evenly share parenting. He did a lot more ministry. I did the parent-teacher interviews and the doctor's appointments. We kind of shared. So in some points, I was raising kids by myself in some areas of their lives. Yeah. The consistency was my key to survival, basically. And it was really, really difficult. But I had to stand on my guard. And if I said no, then I had to stick with no. Yeah. And if we got to the point where it was no and that was it and there was tantrums, everything, I never gave in. And it paid off in the end. But it was a rough road getting there. Yeah. So, like I said, be kind to yourself, because there are going to be days where you just go, I do not care. I'm throwing my hands in the air. Do what you want. I can't be bothered. Let me encourage you. If there's one thing you do, be true to your word. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Yeah. Teach your children that what you say is what you mean, and that's what's going to happen. Yeah. And you will find that, yes, it might be a bit of a rough journey for a while, but you will find that they will, one, respect you, and two, you'll ride the rough ride, but you'll come out the other side. Yeah. And then your kids will understand boundaries so much better.
Yeah. So. Yeah, well, couldn't agree more. And I want to honour you as a mum for doing that, as much as we didn't like it. No. And I want to encourage all the mums out there, you're doing a great job. And there will be those tough moments. There will be that rough ride. I don't think in God's eyes he looks at mums any less because their kids are off doing what they're doing or carrying on. And that happens as they get older too. It's not just like a toddler thing. Sometimes you have an 18-year-old, you have a 35-year-old, you have a kid that's away from God or, not even around. And I'm sure mums' hearts ache over their kids being away from God or even away from the family. Yeah. The stuff of being a parent goes deep. And that's why you can't really judge any mum's story. You can never just assume. You can't say, well, we should have done that. Every mum's had to face some sort of tough season, some sort of difficulty. And I think a big part of that is why you got to belong to a village and a church. There's got to be that allowing mums to have weak moments, allowing them to be vulnerable, allowing them to be loved and nurtured, and being part of a village or a church. I felt like sometimes I was raised by the people in the church around me and people that extended family, because there was times where you're like, this kid's out of control. The counselling's not working. Changing schools ain't working. But at the end of the day, you trust the wider scope, the bigger plan. And you're right. As I get older, I've realised I respect you guys. It's paid off. And I'm sure there's times where I packed my bag and said, I'm out. And I realised that I had no money and I came home. But it's just part of the journey. And I think we highlight that not to be like, oh, poor, like us and the mums. I think it's just like if in church, if we can just be vulnerable that we're not perfect just because we know God. Like we embrace imperfection. We embrace...
I want to piggyback off that too.
Yeah. Go for it.
Oh, okay. I've seen, being in ministry for 30 years and dealing with all kind of different family groups and situations, I've seen so many people put religion as a barrier to their families. And as a Christian, that just breaks my heart. because that's not God's heart for us, and it's not God's heart for our children. And if you found that you yourself is in that situation, build your bridges. You know, I've seen people that have lost all their kids and lost relationship because they're religious and they don't understand the love of God, and they don't understand the balance of it. And I've seen it multiple times, and it's really heartbreaking. And I always say, Mark and I had always made this decision that the Bible says, what would it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? Yeah. And we used to say that with our children. What is it going to profit us if we get to come to church every Sunday and we get to do the good Christian thing and we get to sprout off whatever we want to sprout off and be religious and whatever, but our kids all walk away and want nothing to do with God and want nothing to do with the church? It profits us nothing and it profits them nothing. Yeah. So as Christians, and I know there are people here that are not quite believing God in their journey, and that is absolutely fine, but as a Christian, I want to say, do not let your own bias or your own bigotry or your own take on religion put boundaries between you and your children and your family, because it's not God's plan. And it's not. And if you've got that strained relationship with any of your family or your children, fix it.
So good.
Fix it.
So good. Couldn't agree more. That's the heart of our church, the heart of Heart House, is that we would be the safest place. We don't want to see a generation lost. We don't want to see a generation rejecting God. And I've seen it my whole life. People, their kids are thriving in the church, and they'll go, well, the Bible's not deep enough, I'm going to go up the road, and their kids just completely walk away from God. And the church swap was good, but the kids were lost in the transition. And I always want to build that bridge. If my kids start to lose interest, I'm going to first say there's something I need to change. I got to help them get closer to God. My first ministry is my home life. My first church is my home life. That's the church that I need to go to. And you guys modeled that well. And I guess to piggyback on your piggyback, that's a calling on everyone in this room. It's not about having the complete family unit or having it perfect. It's going home daily and saying, this is my first church. My kids and then their friends, or like my cousins, or as the family expands, it's not so much what we're doing in the house, it's who you're bringing to the house. And that's the motto here. We want to be the safest place. And that's why we hear kids run around. We let them scream. We embrace that. I'm halfway through a sermon sometimes and kids are just singing. I heard Dallas the other day going, go Dad, yeah Dad. We're not like, shh, the preacher's trying to preach. We're like, come on, we want to hear kids' voices in the church. We want to hear joy. We want to hear the ruckus. I don't mind if kids are hanging off the fence. I don't mind if kids are running through the hallways. That's what we want to do in this church, because we want to be the safest place. And we model that well. So consistency, acceptance, grace, all those things. What's one thing as we close tonight that you would encourage all the mums out there, maybe even the soon-to-be mums? I know there's a few people in our church that are about to have kids. Shout out to my brother and his wife. But what's something you could encourage to those mums that have older kids as well? Not so much just the ones with young kids, but those that are expecting, those that have young kids, those that have old kids, those that are here tonight and not with their kids. What's something you could leave us with as encouragement?
This is probably a different answer to what Sam was probably expecting me to say. But one thing coming out of the other side of parenting, where most of my children are adults now, I obviously still have a teenager at home, a couple of teenagers at home, but one still at school. But the greatest thing I let myself down in was never, ever carving time out for me. So because I lived so many years in nurturing role, I guess it was, so nurturing my own family, nurturing the people of the church, nurturing extended family, I spent 3 decades doing that. And I never actually ever stopped to... I filled up with the spiritual side of stuff as I went. You know, like I got to preach, so I'm reading stuff and I'm getting revelation. But then with the rest of it, with the physical and the emotional, I let that really fall by the wayside. And it's only now at 55 that I'm going, I need to actually invest in myself. And I'm really sad I didn't do that for the last 3 decades. So let me encourage you, and I know that it might only be 5 minutes out of your day, And not just to pray, but to have some stillness in your life.
Yeah,
Like quiet your mind. Spend some time with just worshipping, even if it's just one song. Sit on the toilet and listen to a song, you know. Buy a lock for your toilet door and let your kids bang on it and listen to a worship song. If it's just one thing, just take that time. Go for a little walk with them. Stick them in a stroller if you've got young kids and just go for a walk. You know, once the kids get on the bus for school or you drop them off to school, continue into town and just take a big sit at the beach and breathe. You know, this is stuff I learned way too late after the fact that I wish I had have implemented in my life. And I want to encourage you, if you can take away anything of what you can do for yourself, and that is just to be kind and just every day collect yourself.
Yeah.
Just breathe, just, you know, let your soul get into line again. Because sometimes we can get to the end of the day and we're just so burdened down with the things of life and the financial issues and the partner issues and whatever it might be. And we forget that we're humans and we're women and we need to recharge and we need to be our very best for our family. We need to be really kind to us.
Yeah.
So let me encourage you with that, you know, even if it's just 5 minutes. Find that 5 minutes, find that works for you and just breathe and go, I need to be recharged for my family tomorrow so I get to face this all over again.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be that little bit stronger and that little bit more refreshed. So find time to do that.
That's very good advice. Very good. You know, just thinking about the church life, because it extends beyond the home life. And we always want to have a church where maybe that breather is here. Because some people don't get a break. They don't get a break from, you know, work and life and kids.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage maybe anyone out here and anyone watching online that at a hard house, this can be your break. There's no judgment. Your kids can run feral.
Yeah.
They can be in the service. I always said to Kirst, I want a church where kids are watching their parents be, not at the back all the time and not elsewhere, but just people gathering and their kids are here and they're running around. That is the church. And I don't want anyone to ever think, well, it's got to be what the services of the church, like what services we offer. Do we have a playgroup? Do we have this, whatever? No, the church is made up of people getting together and allowing people to be refreshed and have a break. And I don't think that's done through, hey, maybe Poppy Chris will go, hey, I'll take your kids from you and let you, you know, have a break. That's from you coming in knowing that you don't have to parent for a moment and just be refreshed. Maybe at the shops everyone pointed and looked, maybe at school everyone pointed and looked, but here, your kids can just be kids. You can just be here, they can be in the place. This can be your refreshment. The village has got to be important and it's not about, you know, even chucking them at the back in kids' church. Just come in knowing that you can be yourself. Your kids can be themselves. There is no judgment. And I think a church that has kids running up and down the road is a church that's alive. We want to embrace that. That's more than just a home motto. That is our church motto.
So good.
Bring your kids.
So good.
Let them run amok. Let them be part of the process. And I think good parents will embrace that. They'll say, I'll bring my kids and I'll switch off. I won't even have to parent them for a moment at a hard house. I'll let them just be kids and know that everyone here supports you, backs you, will love you, help you.
So
Reach out
good.
for a meal, we'll cook one. We are the village. We are the wider family. That's what Hard House is. And it's an extension for those that don't believe, an extension for those that do believe. It's an extension for those that are looking to be part of what we do here. This is the safe place. And everyone in here wants to be part of that journey.
So good.
So I couldn't agree more. Refreshed, consistency, grace, fantastic. Loved interviewing you tonight, Mum.
Thanks, mate.
And I think there's a lot of gold in that. And I think we could have went longer. I think there's a lot more we could have talked about.
Yeah.
But let's save that for next year. How about you put your hands together for my mum as...